This summer, amidst a global pandemic, protesters from around the world emerged from their quarantines to take to the streets in protest of police and vigilante killings of Black people like Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd. In response to these brutal murders that the world watched on their phones, there have been calls for white people to reckon with their whiteness in new ways. Books like White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo and How to Be an Antiracist by Ibram Kendi climbed the charts. Webinars with renowned scholars of race and racism became commonplace, and teachers began to grapple with the implications of this moment for their students. An Education Week survey with thousands of teachers found that 81% identified as anti-racist. What does that mean? When asked for their description, the majority described anti-racism as the inclusion of multiple perspectives. According to educational research on how race and racism is taught to students, scholars have found that race is frequently understood as a personality trait rather than a structural condition. Anti-racist education is premised frequently on the examination of white privilege rather than on larger social conditions that garner such privileges. Research on anti-racist and culturally relevant and sustaining pedagogies tends to focus on racism, but leaves whiteness as an organizing system largely unexamined, thereby reifying it as the norm. So in this project, I'm attempting to understand, what do history teachers know and teach about whiteness, and can studying the history of race and how racial categories emerged as a structuring system to justify colonization and enslavement change the ways that teachers think about and teach about race and racism in their classrooms? So, what are we doing? This project is ongoing. I'm working with the History and Civics Project at UC Santa Cruz to develop a 3-part workshop series for teachers across the country. This workshop is sponsored by the California History and Social Science Project and the Library of Congress Teaching with Primary Sources program, looking at questions of whiteness in the archive. What is whiteness? Where does it come from? And how has it changed over time? And where do we see this in the historical record? The goals for this project are that race is denaturalized. This is because even in radical social studies research that centers race, it presumes a naturalness and doesn't question where the racial categories actually emerged from. Second, we hope whiteness can be understood as a historically grounded phenomenon that's changed over time. This is because whiteness is often obfuscated, hidden, and ignored. And as David Roediger argued, if it does not involve a critique of whiteness, the questioning of racism often proves shallow and limited. Finally, we hope to emphasize the socio-historical process by which racial categories are created, inhabited, transformed, and destroyed. Understanding this can help us consider ways to fundamentally change the meaning of whiteness and dismantle white supremacy. We aim to reach these goals through the examination of particular historical individuals like Gomes de Zurara, the biographer of Portuguese King Henry the Navigator in 1444, who first lumped together Africans under the umbrella term Black, equating them with bestial sloths. Events like Bacon's Rebellion in 1676, which ruptured emergent ties between poor whites and enslaved Africans, and the court case US v. Bhagat Singh Thind, who unsuccessfully sued to be considered white given his Caucasian origins. We'll also examine symbols like the Hunt Lennox globe, which includes the label "Here There Be Dragons," and the Statue of Liberty, a symbol which Tyler Stovall describes as white freedom, whereby, despite its origins as a gift from France in celebration of the end of slavery, it's come to signify immigration of white immigrants. Research methods and follow-up. So as mentioned, this project is ongoing and the workshops will take place this summer. The methods will include pre and post surveys of participants to learn more about the ways that they currently understand race, racism, whiteness, and how and whether these views change after the workshop series Historicizing these concepts. We'll also conduct semi-structured interviews with a subset of participants to learn about their learning experiences and we will establish a network of collaborators to continue to drive the work forward. Our results are to be determined, but we look forward to learning more.